unmanned vehicles have already conquered the skies. Now they're ready to advance over land.
It's like playing with a gigantic toy.
And even at sea.
Skipper, this is your last and final warning. Stop your vessel now.
The IMS is not a landmine.
It's thinking for the 21st century.
It's an intelligent munition system that can tell friend from foe.
We want to put the enemy in our kill zone.
From the frozen landscapes of Sweden comes the Archer, a futuristic artillery system that keeps its two-man crew clear of danger. But it's deadly accurate.
There's a new gun in town.
I'm Richard Mackwitz. After 10 years in the Navy SEALs, my new mission is to track down tomorrow's smart destroyers. Today's war on terror demands constant vigilance. A terrorist attack can hit any place at any time without warning. Fanatical extremists will use any means at their disposal to cause chaos and carnage, threatening innocent lives as well as those of the defense forces. One of the most effective countermeasures against this kind of threat is the unmanned vehicle.
Unmanned aerial vehicles like the Predator are getting a lot of attention for the Air Force. Unmanned ground vehicles are coming online for the Army, but almost no one's heard of a USV, unmanned surface vehicle, and they're coming to the Navy now.
Unlike this boat, unmanned vehicles go in and do the dirty work while their crews stay safely out of harm's way. Now that same principle has been applied to the armed patrol boat, as I'm about to see here in San Diego, home of the U.S. Navy's Special Warfare Command.
When you want to secure miles of ocean and not put your guys in harm's way, you need a weapon system that can perform all kinds of missions.
To do that, you need the Protector. Remote-controlled and lethally armed, it allows the crew to carry out dangerous missions from a safe distance. It was first deployed in Israel, where it earned itself the nickname Death Shark. Recently, the Protector was demonstrated to the U.S. Navy, and they're excited about this USV. Retired Admiral George Worthington has been instrumental in realizing the Protector's full potential.
It's a technology that has to be fully developed. And we're just got the Predator and the Global Hawk and some of the airborne systems, and there's some autonomous submersible systems now that are probably highly classified. We're still just scratching the surface. We haven't gotten there yet.
The first thing any remote-controlled vehicle needs is to give the operator back at base as full a picture as possible.
With its incredible optics package, the Protector can find you day or night.
We have 5 different cameras on the ship. We also have a radar, a navigation radar that can be used to detect intruders or objects out at sea that may be of interest. It has an infrared camera for day-night operation, and it is also a targeting camera so that you can actually track targets automatically, and it has a laser rangefinder on it. So you can determine how far a target is away from you for computing a fire control solution for the gun.
Equipped with precision optics, an array of sensors, and armed with a deadly weapons package, the Protector is the newest nautical smart destroyer. But this is no prototype. The Protector offers the U.S. Navy the same capability already in service in Singapore and Israel, fighting the war on terror. In the year 2000, the USS Cole was refueling in Aden in the Middle East. A seemingly innocent fishing boat began to approach, but it was far from harmless. It was crammed with explosives and piloted by terrorists, hell-bent on a suicide mission. As well as an estimated $1 billion worth of damage to the coal, 17 servicemen lost their lives. A single protector might have prevented this tragic loss.
Tactical advantages are you can see something before it gets to you. Had this been available in Aden, it could have maybe have protected the coal from attack. They felt they were in a secure harbor, and turns out they weren't. But with something like this out there patrolling, that would at least alert the Combat Information Center or the guards on deck that there was a potential threat out there developing.
Well, in that kind of situation, you definitely want to challenge that vessel coming towards you.
You want to challenge that vessel, and I'd say at a minimum 100 yards.
Any situation where a manned patrol boat would be exposed to danger, the Protector comes into its own. An oil rig at sea is just one example of a high-value target for terrorists. But the Protector's ability to go in, investigate, and take action without risking the crew, that makes it ideal for this type of situation.
Missions are varied and flexible, but it's primarily designed to protect fixed and mobile assets from waterside. For instance, a critical installation like a desalinization plant, a nuclear power plant, an oil well that's sitting out at sea, or it can protect mobile assets like high-value assets such as Navy ships, Coast Guard ships, where you want to have that ring of defense around those assets before the bad guys get in too close.
Endurance is another asset that the Protector brings to the fight. Safely out of harm's way, the two-man crew can operate in shifts for weeks at a time, while the Protector stays on active duty. Back on dry land, Program Manager Dr. Nome takes me through the remote controls.
The system is designed for two operators. One operator sitting here in front of this control station is operating the mission payload. You can operate the sensors, detect targets, acquire them, track them, and eventually use the gun to engage the targets.
This Protector is loaded out with a 7.62 Mini Typhoon machine gun. With a range of 1,000 yards, it fires up to 950 rounds a minute. But this is just the beginning.
Our next development steps are to look at both going more lethal than that and less lethal. Less lethal for patrolling civilian harbors, such as we're sitting in today, and then going more lethal with small missiles and be able to control those remotely. And there are several candidates out there.
Next, in an all-too realistic scenario, I use the Protector to stop a spy dead in the water.
Skipper, this is your last and final warning. We will open fire on you.
And later, I'll be testing the IMS, an incredibly brilliant alternative to the devastating landmine. I've come to San Diego to test the brand new unmanned surface vehicle. I've already heard what its capabilities are, but now I'm getting ready to try it out for myself. Suicide bombers often check out their route in advance, and if these scouts can be apprehended, the attack can be prevented before it even begins. So, I'm about to test the Protector's effectiveness as an armed patrol boat.
All right, so we're scanning the horizon to make sure that no vessels are there that don't belong.
Right.
The scenario starts with a routine sweep and clear mission in restricted waters. With the Protector's cameras, I spot what looks like an ordinary fishing boat. But on closer inspection, there's something very fishy about the man on deck.
What's he doing? Can we zoom in?
He seems to be angling for something more than just the catch of the day.
How did you sit in? Is he fishing?
No.
No?
Looks like he's
I
taking
think he's
some
taking
photos.
photos.
Aerial surveillance confirms it. The only prize this phony fisherman is after is a clear shot of the military naval ships in the harbor.
Now, he's not supposed to be taking photos here, is he?
No.
All right, so we
Better
might as
warn
well
him
give
off.
him some indication.
Skipper, stop what you're doing and state your intention.
Now the Protector springs into action.
Skipper, stop what you're doing and state your intention.
Caught red-handed. The spy tries to make a speedy getaway.
Skipper, stop your vessel.
Running off. All right, let's go chase him.
Dumb move. Traveling at nearly 40 miles an hour, the Protector can easily match his speed.
Skipper, we will only give you 3 warnings. This is your 2nd warning. Stop your vessel now. Skipper, this is your last and final warning. We will open fire on you. Stop now.
Caught in the all-seeing optics, staring down the barrel of a machine gun with no human operator to take out, the spy quickly surrenders.
Skipper, come to the back of your vessel. Put your hands in the air.
The Protector will keep him under armed guard until he's picked up and brought in for interrogation. It's important to remember this is no fantasy scenario. The Protector came about because of real-life terrorist attacks and suicide bombings using boats similar to this one. On operations in the Middle East, the Protector is already helping to keep military personnel safe. But this smart destroyer is almost guaranteed to find other combat roles in the near future. I would have loved to have access to one of these when I was in special warfare.
For example, at the outset of the Iraqi conflict, SEALs went in and surveilled the oil platforms in the water swimming in. It could be done with this too. This would go in there and say, okay, the approaches are clear, there are no guard boats out there, then the SEALs could go in and, in other words, it give you a little bit more flexibility, operational flexibility, and certitude that your approaches are clear. Going in Vietnam in the rivers, one of the most dangerous parts was the approach to the insertion point.
Absolutely. When you're talking about, most people think about the actions at the objective, but the insertion, the infiltration, the exfiltration, the extraction.
Getting there is half the fun. You've heard that. And this would help you determine whether an approach was clear or not.
With the Protector patrolling the seas, any fleet can rest a little easier knowing they have a new and deadly ally that will never get tired and never give up.
The Protector is an extremely versatile weapon system that should be in every Navy's arsenal. It's ready to counter threats in hostile environments today.
Next, it's the Army's turn to bring unmanned vehicles onto the battlefield. After his rifle, the SMSS could be the soldier's best friend. If robotic vehicles are suitable for air and sea missions, then why not on land as well? Imagine a ground vehicle that could not only provide support and backup to mobile infantry, but could even run missions all by itself. The U.S. Army have a purpose-built range at Grand Prairie, Texas, where unmanned vehicles are put through their paces. It's here that I will come face-to-face with the SMSS.
SMSS stands for the Squad Mission Support System. It is a squad-sized UGV, unmanned ground vehicle, basically designed to provide transport, robotic transport, for light infantry forces, particularly special operating forces.
Donald Nimblett is Business Development Manager for Combat Maneuver Systems. A former helicopter pilot with 2 Vietnam tours under his belt, he knows firsthand the difficulties troops can face getting their gear transported.
What they take in with them is basically the supplies and equipment they need for that operation, and they literally have to carry it.
Soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan carry an average load of 100 pounds. That's like going into combat carrying almost the weight of a person on your back. And the last place you can afford to be exhausted is when you're fighting for your life on the battlefield.
In Vietnam, the soldiers were carrying so much that basically they were very fatigued most of the time that they were back in the jungles. They would walk lethargically, and when you get fatigued in combat, you start making mistakes. You start forgetting how you're supposed to operate tactically. And that's a danger, and it's still true today.
The SMSS will eliminate some of that fatigue by quite literally taking the weight off their shoulders. Moving at speeds up to 25 miles an hour, it can carry 1,000 pounds worth of gear. That's almost the load of 10 soldiers. Unloaded, it weighs just 2,000 pounds.
The SMSS is very transportable via helicopters, internally in the CH-47 and then sling-loaded underneath the CH-60.
It can even be parachuted in along with Special Operations Forces, and that's a real bonus. All right, it's time for me to see the SMSS in action.
Time to take this baby for a test drive.
Getting the hang of the joystick controls couldn't be easier, and once you do, it's a whole lot more fun than walking. Bumps, hills, rocks. This takes every challenge in stride. Once it goes into service, it'll have to cope with every type of terrain. From the deserts of Iraq to the mountains of Afghanistan, even the mud and debris of a post-conflict environment.
Of course, this thing is a lot of fun to play with, but the beautiful thing about the Squad Mission Support System is that everything about it can be done completely by remote control.
Let's see if we can get it to go a little faster. A little bit to the left. You gotta go very light with these. So you got the two different controllers right there. This goes up, this goes right and left. This is emergency stop. So, going forward. There you go. It's like playing with a gigantic toy.
But the SMSS is so much more than a toy. It's so smart, it doesn't even need an operator to drive it.
The idea of an autonomous soldier in your squad may not be that far in the future.
The soldier is not going to want to spend his entire day looking into a display screen and having to control that vehicle to get it to do anything. We need levels of autonomy that he can essentially tell it what he wants it to do, and it goes off and does that mission, that job, that role.
That's exactly what the SMSS can do. An onboard scanning sensor called a laser radar gives a 3D perception of what lies ahead. From the information received, the vehicle decides whether to negotiate the obstacle or to ask the operator for an intervention. I put my trust in this technology by standing in the pathway of an oncoming SMSS. The vehicle detects me and stops short of running me down. I guess that means we're on the same side. Being able to work on its own like this means commanders can send the SMSS into situations where they would normally have to risk the life of a soldier.
We put a reconnaissance sensor on it. It could go forward, it could look into buildings, it could look down alleys, it could check out suspected sites without the soldier having to go and be personally involved in that. be 500 meters away, controlling the system, staying out of harm's way.
Of course, no matter how smart we make our weapons, there will never be such a thing as a war without casualties. It can take up to 4 soldiers to medevac 1 soldier from a firefight. That's a lot of men pulled away from the battle, giving more power to the enemy.
1, 2, 3, let.
Using the SMSS to perform emergency medical evacuations quickly and efficiently allows those 4 soldiers to continue with the attack.
If we had an SMSS, the battlefield commander could use that to conduct an emergency evacuation of up to 2 personnel. If you do that, then you free up those 8 people and keep them in the fight.
There's no doubt that this will play a crucial supporting role to the soldier. But is it pushing it a bit to start thinking of the SMSS as a robotic member of the squad?
The SMSS should be treated as another soldier. I mean, basically, you should give it orders, tell it what you want it to do, and then let it go do it. And like a soldier, it'll either complete the mission, or if it gets confused, doesn't understand, find something it wasn't expecting, it'll turn around essentially and ask you for further instructions, just like a soldier would.
And if the SMSS is really expected to step up on the front line, then it seems only fair to give it a gun.
Later, as technology permits, systems that we think can go on, obviously machine guns, light machine guns, your heavy machine gun 50 caliber. There's no reason why the Mark 19 grenade launcher couldn't go on it. We have concepts for launching Javelin missiles off of it, and other munitions could be accommodated, assuming it can accommodate the weight of the system.
The Squad Mission Support System. It's the U.S. Army's own unique application of artificial intelligence to help the soldier on the ground stay alive and win the fight. Coming up, a future weapon that lies in wait, can decide whether you're friend or foe, and if it doesn't like what it sees, well, the enemy is going to have a bad day. Until recently, just about the only way to secure an area against enemy access without using up personnel was to scatter it with deadly landmines. These were definitely effective. The moment an approaching vehicle or person touched the mine, well, it's over. For a very good reason, persistent landmines are no longer an option for Western coalition forces. Irresponsibly deployed or abandoned, they will stay hidden and active for years, even decades after a conflict has passed. More importantly, once abandoned, they are indiscriminate. An anti-personnel landmine will kill or maim anyone who steps onto it, soldier, civilian, adult, or child. There is a real need for a device that can be left unattended and trusted to isolate an area while sending out a big no-entry message.
So, how do you give the battlefield commander that capability without the baggage attached to landmines? You try something completely different, something revolutionary.
That amazing something is the Intelligent Munition System. The IMS will use the most sophisticated technology available to actually distinguish a potential target from an innocent passerby. The man in the loop will always be an option, but even acting autonomously, an array of sensors will gather acoustic, magnetic, and seismic data about everything approaching it to determine what it is, how it's moving, and whether or not it's a threat. The system is currently under development for the U.S. Army at White Sands Military Testing Range in New Mexico. Systems Program Manager Henry Fennerell talked me through the components of the very latest prototype.
This is the Intelligent Munition System. It's really made up of two major elements. One is the dispensing module, which is the part that gets put into the field. And over here we have the control station, which is made up of a ruggedized laptop computer as well as a transceiver. And this device would be put in a remote location for the operator to oversee the field.
The dispenser module is the business end of this device. As well as the smart electronics, it usually contains two different types of munitions.
The anti-vehicle munitions are based on the sensor fuse weapon sublet technology and is a top attack system.
If a target vehicle triggers the IMS, a gas generator propels a small explosive sublet out of a launching tube. It spins as it climbs, scanning the ground below with its infrared sensors in an ever-increasing circle. If it finds a target, the sublet ignites the warhead, creating an explosively formed penetrator to take it out.
This doesn't come back down to the ground unused. If it doesn't find a target once it's fired in the air, it will self-destruct, won't it?
That's correct. It leaves a clean battlefield.
This airborne approach allows one sublet to cover an area of over 80,000 square feet. That means just one IMS module is much more effective than dozens of landmines.
We want to put the enemy at a disadvantage. We want to put him in our kill zone. And that's all about shaping the battlefield, channeling him, making him go where we want to kill him. And that's where IMS is key.
This is a super smart destroyer that can act unsupervised or under the control of a remote human operator. It's a quantum leap from the old indiscriminate landmine.
This is not a mine. This is a munition system. We don't have to bury it. You know, it's there. It can be camouflaged so the enemy doesn't see it. The vehicle, be it a tank or whatever, does not have to run over this in order to be engaged. As long as that target is within the engagement area, we can engage that target.
The aerial submunition is specifically designed to take out enemy vehicles. But the IMS has another trick up its miniature metal sleeves.
We can also sense personnel even trying to crawl up to this system. And if so, it'd be engaged by these grenades here. So the system is tamper-proof. There's no way to sneak up on it or get access to it unless we want you to have access to it.
It's certainly more effective than a landmine, but knowing precisely when not to fire is what makes the IMS a truly smart addition to the future theater of war.
We know we need to pass a unit, friendly unit through. With the IMS, we can still deny the enemy use of that terrain. We can turn the field off or put it in a safe passage mode and allow the friendlies to go through, and then rearm that field after they get through so that we're protected at that point.
Which is something we've never really been able to do.
We've never been able to do that before.
We're still showing an executed status here.
Tom Fry has positioned his command and control vehicle here at White Sands. I'm taking the battlefield commander's seat to see how easy it is to get the system switched off and safe.
IMS, this is H2.
IMS.
H2 is requesting entry into the field, so please disarm the IMS field.
H2, IMS, stand by.
So it's great. You have a bunch of sensors out there. They've already locked off that area. You know that's an area you control. If you want to make it friendly, you have the power to do that with IMS. If you want to turn it back up and make it a no-go zone, you can do that.
Field and safe passage, over.
Roger that. Thank you, IMS.
So we've been granted safe passage?
Granted safe passage.
And because it's a fully networked system, the battlefield commander knows that the area is covered. When multiple units are deployed in the same area, they communicate amongst themselves to give the operator an even clearer picture of any possible target. And if your battlefield commander decides to change tactics, the system can be easily recovered and reused.
Conventional mines used to be spread all over the field. This system here, you can put far fewer of these out there. You know exactly where they are. So if a conflict is over, you can easily, through the control station, turn the system off, go out, recover it, and bring it in and use it again.
The intelligent munitions system does what no landmine could ever do. It's thinking for the 21st century. Next, in a landscape of ice and snow, the Swedish Archer brings a new level of heat to the world of futuristic artillery systems. Big guns can make or break the battle. Whoever has the most accurate firepower will dominate, and there's nothing like it when you see the carnage of their barrage. You know that however hard the enemy defenses were, they're now seriously softened up. But even the giants of the battlefield have their weaknesses. Muscle is no use without speed.
When it comes down to a big gunfight, you're either quick or you're dead.
And the sheer size and weight of most heavy artillery makes it vulnerable to another factor that is completely outside of your control: the weather. Extreme conditions of hot, cold, and wet can cause the big guns to get bogged down, stopping an army in its tracks. What's needed is a heavy-duty, hard-hitting howitzer that can get through anything, from frozen snowdrifts to searing sandstorms, delivering its payload rapidly. Now, there is a solution, but to find it, I have to travel to one of the most extreme climates in the world: the frozen, remote forests of Sweden. The Swedish Army's firing range is in Boden, just 70 miles south of the Arctic Circle. I've come here to see an exclusive test firing of a heavy weapon that promises to deliver whenever and wherever you need it, no matter what the weather.
Normally, when you think of big guns like a howitzer, the last word that comes to mind is quick. But there's a new gun in town. This is the fastest heavy howitzer in the world. It's the Archer.
The Archer is a fully automated, self-loading 155mm howitzer mounted on a 6-wheel drive armored truck. Even at minus 35 degrees, it's ready to go to work. The Archer is so cutting edge, there are only 2 prototypes in existence. But by 2011, this could be the howitzer of choice for Western forces. Major Lars Rutgersson of the Swedish Army Artillery Regiment believes this weapon is setting a new standard for artillery.
The Archer is a weapon which belongs to the future. It's a very fast system, and it has a capability to fire very long range.
In fact, its range is 31 miles, almost twice that of the Archer's predecessor. This incredible reach alone is enough to qualify the Archer as a first-rate future weapon. But that's also true of its mighty 6-wheel drive transport system. Designed to be practically unstoppable, no climate, terrain, or weather condition is too extreme for the Archer.
The Archer is built to actually operate in all kinds of weathers. We could operate in snow, as well as in sand or desert.
Wherever you want it to go, the Archer comes through. And when it gets there, it just takes seconds to set up and fire.
One of the reasons the Archer is so fast is nobody has to get out and do any of the heavy lifting. Everything is completely automated.
After you've finished firing, the same thing applies in the other direction. It's just as quick to pack up and get the heck out of there. It's called shoot and scoot, but what that really means is you can hit the target, take off, and be gone before the munitions even reach the target.
The older artillery, it takes a very long time to deploy, about 10 to 15 minutes, and it also took a very long time to redeploy. And the Archer system, it is possible to deploy in 30 seconds.
What makes the Archer so quick? Well, historically, big guns need large and well-trained teams to load and fire them. With the Archer, the same job can be done by just 2 men. How? Because of a fully automated fire control system called Lemur. This gives the operator an electro-optical sight and a remote-controlled weapon station to zero in on the target using either a laser rangefinder, infrared, or regular TV camera. Everything from loading to firing is automated.
The big difference with the loading and so on is that we only press a button on the screen here. And then everything is automatic back in the loading system.
And a fully automated loading system means that the operating crew never has to expose itself to the enemy by leaving the safety of the armored cab.
The cab of the Archer is completely armored and has glass almost 3 inches thick. So I'm safe from small arms fire. And if I enter an area where there's a radiation, biological, or chemical threat, no problem. Plus, it's a lot warmer in here than it is out there.
But there are so many other features that make the Archer such a smart destroyer. The gun barrel is more than 26 feet long, helping it to achieve its phenomenal range. It can fire off 20 rounds in just 2.5 minutes. It can even fire the most advanced artillery round in existence, Excalibur. This uses GPS navigation to home in on a small target with incredible accuracy from distances of 25 miles or more. GPS requires a lot of sensitive electronics, and it was a major achievement for it to survive just being fired from a cannon. The round actually steers itself after it's been fired, a first for an artillery shell. Coming up, the target is miles away, and it's about as small as they come. Using only a standard round, we challenge the Archer to hit the bullseye. Sometimes you just need to use brute force to overwhelm your opponent. That's what heavy artillery is all about. I've come to Sweden to see a brand new weapon that aims to set the standard for big guns. The Archer is a 155mm howitzer. It can hit targets at a staggering 31 miles away. It can be up and ready to go in just 3 seconds. It can deal with any weather condition, hot or cold. Nothing's going to stop the Archer. Heavy artillery was born to pound large areas. The idea is to surprise the enemy, then pummel him into the ground, giving him no chance to escape. And this amazing Archer can pull out multiple arrows from its quiver to simultaneously attack. With a bit of computer number crunching and a little alteration of the barrel's angle of elevation, it can carry out what is known as multiple round simultaneous impact. If you can fire a shell at a high angle, it takes longer to reach the target than if you fire it at a low angle. By starting high and dropping the barrel between each shot, it's possible to time the launches so that anything up to 5 shells will all bombard the target at exactly the same time. Although it's simple in principle, multiple round simultaneous impact is actually extremely difficult to achieve, and only the most sophisticated systems have been able to demonstrate real results. Using this tactic, a couple of archers can land dozens of shells onto an enemy target within a time frame of about a second. No warning, no escape.
They haven't got the time to go into protection or a foxhole or something like that.
But how well does the archer perform without the help of MRSI, or the Excalibur GPS guided shell? Well, that's exactly what we want to find out. So we've set up a little challenge here at Bowden. Standard artillery rounds were never originally designed to be pinpoint accurate. They were meant to bombard a large area. The target, a regular car. It's placed just 2 miles away. Okay, it's not far by artillery standards, but then a car is much smaller than anything you would normally try to hit using a howitzer and a standard round. To understand this shot, imagine trying to hit an apple with a bow and arrow from 250 feet away. First, the crew identifies the target and locates its exact position. Then, the laser rangefinder determines the precise distance. Other factors such as wind speed are taken into account. The firing sequence is fine-tuned to an incredible degree of accuracy for this specific set of conditions. You can feel the tension. Finally, it's the moment of truth. Even with a standard round from just 2 miles away, it only took 3 short seconds to hit and trash the target.
With the devastating combination of the Excalibur round, its all-terrain capability, and its pure speed, this is one archer that's gonna hit the bullseye.